We are live.
Are we?
Yeah, it says we are live.
Oh,
Can you please
hold
mute
on.
the background?
Hold on. Awesome. Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the BWTV. And today we have with us, who do we have with us? We have a transformed Sangeeta Kochar from New Delhi. Okay,
Transform.
we're gonna make it as professional as possible because this is a very professional platform, Sangeeta, and we
We'll
have
try.
to. We'll try. Okay,
We
cool.
can always promise to try.
Awesome. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us, Sangeeta. And we can, I mean, I can go on talking about what I know of and about you, but would you like to talk to our audience about what's your journey been like as a facilitator? So those of you who are watching, she's a facilitator, coach, healer from New Delhi. And yes, and you've been working with the body whispering tools for the last very many years. So would you like to talk to us about how your journey has been and please introduce yourself.
So you've already done a good job of that. But hi guys, I'm Sangeeta, and yes, I'm from New Delhi, and yes, I'm a facilitator, and all the other accolades that Dabtu's added, like a coach, healer. Well, I'll accept it, but at your own risk. Like, I mean, if you come to me with that accolade, it's at your own risk. However, thanks, Tatu, for asking me. Actually, first, thank you for having me on. I attended Adila's body whispering in 2015, I think, 2014 or 15. So it's the first class that was being um, created in New Delhi. And it was in New Delhi. It was Tulika and me. So Tulika is another facilitator, and you know of her. So Tulika and me were hosting Adila, and it was really interesting to be hosting. It was one of the first classes that I was hosting, and I'd never considered myself as someone who would be an invitation to other bodies, to a class especially, because I have had such a, let's just say, not so friendly relationship with my own body as I was growing up. I grew up in a house full of people who were always either making their body wrong or were never in their body. So I grew up a lot around a lot of addiction. I grew up around a lot of body shaming. In fact, now that I think about it, like I think we were all body shamed out of embodiment. While we were little, all we saw were how our adults were constantly fighting their body, either with substance abuse or with food. Like I know I grew up in this huge joint family, and the head of my joint family was my grandmom, who was bulimic. Okay, so that's how that's where I learned about bodies. But I also knew that my body was very different when I was young. Like I didn't come with I think for most part of I don't know how to say this, but like it was a happy body, at least as far as I remember as a kid. It was a happy body. And then I learned how to be unhappy having a body. So it became a place where um, I actually thought I didn't exist if I was in my body.
Mm.
So that was interesting. And the whole thing of, and then of course, then life happened and I grew up with a lot of all the time making my body wrong. So there were a lot of things that I didn't do as I was growing up. Like I didn't participate in a lot of things because I was so embarrassed to show my body. So let's say if it was a sports event and I needed to wear shorts, I wouldn't participate because I wouldn't show my legs. Or if it was a play that required me to wear something that showed any part of my body, if it was not completely covered, I wouldn't participate. So that was enough reason to not participate. Or behind a mask, like really cool. Like if you made me do anything with a mask in front of me, great. So I think I learned to hide a lot, and eventually, like I said, life happened, marriage and children, and then I reached a place where I was diagnosed with bipolar. And for all of you who are watching this, bipolar is actually one of those dis-ease where having a body is the issue. Like you feel you don't exist because you have a body. So for most of your life, you live outside your body. So it's like the things that are like beyond body, they're easier for people with bipolar to do than things that people do in body. So like everyday life of like having to take care of my kids or my house or preparing meals was a daunting task. It was enough for me to not get out of bed. Whereas things like when there was like an emergency, if I had to stop a truck, I could. Because being the thing is, it was easier for me to operate without my body than with my body. But unfortunately, I had a body, so it started getting really difficult because it was very difficult to have that and take care of my kids. They were very little at that time. My son was 4, my daughter was just born, and so having to go through the whole spiel of having medicines and taking those pills on a daily basis, I began to ask for something different. But I also remember having asked for something different all my life. So I've not had a normal childhood. I don't want to go into the story of it, but for me, I was mostly surviving and not really thriving. So the choices I made was based on that. So it was I think when I was growing up, I think I was about 15 years old when I actually like started questioning like, this can't be it. I'm sure I didn't come here to like be punished or to have it all hard. I'm sure there's something that I'm missing that no one's talking to me about. So I started like exploring alternate healing therapies. I think the first one that I did was Reiki, and I think, all of 16. I found this really gorgeous woman in Delhi who I learned it from, and I saw her life, and it was something that like kind of sang to me. She lived alone. She was she was brilliant, gentle, very very gorgeous, and she did nothing by the book. And I think that was what kind of like pinged in my universe, because all my life I was trying to do everything by the book, because I was brought up being told that, hey, if you do everything right, you'll finally be happy. I don't know how many of us have been told that, but like it was like, if you do this correctly, if you just get good marks, if you just get a good job, if you just get married to a good man, if you have 2 good children and 2 good dogs, you'll finally be happy. I did all of it, but like it didn't make me happy. In fact, the more right things I did, the sadder I got, the more unhappy I got. And it was almost like, I don't know if you've ever experienced like when everything is seeming right to the outside world, and if someone watched your life, they'd be like, "What are you complaining about? Everything is so good, right?" And but then that there's a void, and you don't know what that is. It was only after coming into Access and doing like a lot of other work, and then finally body whispering, I realized that what was missing was me. I never asked myself what worked for me, what was true for me, what did I desire out of my life, because there was never any room for it. And I think one of the places to begin with is to acknowledge that you have a body. I think that happened to me in the body whispering class, where I actually sat down and I was like, oh, freak, I have a body. You know, it's like I have a body. It's not something that I can ignore. It's not something that, I mean, yeah, I can choose to live outside of it all the time, but is that really working for me? And I had done enough work to sort of ask those questions. And I think the space that I also started watching people who really embodied their body and asked to have joy and fun with their body. And I think Adila is one such person. She really enjoys her body, whether it is grooming it or flaunting it or um, like just having fun with everything she does with it, right? So it was actually an absolute bonus to be in that class and to be asked to host that class. So also my body created that I received that class as a gift, which was really, really amazing. And then I got to meet her, and I also got to meet a lot of other people. And as that class took place for 2 days, I watched people come up with complaints and judgments that were very.
Yeah, so can I ask you a question? I'm so sorry to stop you here, but then so many things, but then I'd really like to begin by, so obviously, so we are very good friends, and like something that I've known, like having spent time with you, is you're someone who actually doesn't have a point of view about
Absolutely.
when it comes to people's bodies, and when it comes to like really having any, actually I would say almost no point of view about how other bodies actually look or what they are, right? And so having said that, like, so when you said that you had a lot of point of views about your body, what was that like? And like, where are you with it today?
So it was really crazy. If I were to tell you the things that I thought about my body, I think anyone who knows me would like go like, "What the fuck? Why didn't you ever tell us this is how horrible you felt?" And but I felt so horrid. It was like there were these, and I think I've shared it with you, but it was really crazy. But there were these two words that would continuously ring in my head, which was fat and ugly, fat and ugly, fat and ugly. It was really crazy. And and there are, like I told you, that there are so many things that I stopped myself from doing just because I didn't want to show up because I had decided that that was my reality. That was my body's reality. So there are things I think short of probably doing something to really kill myself. I'm very fortunate that I loved myself that much. Or I think it wasn't love. I think it was the fact that I decided that I'm a very strong person, which kept me from doing anything like that. But like I remember, okay, so I'm gonna tell you that. So this is really something that I've never told anyone. I think, this is really really funny. No platform like a BW TV to get like on outright honest and vulnerable, right? So when I was born, I was so dark. I was I was black. Like anybody who came to visit me, if I talked to anyone who came to visit me in the hospital, including relatives, they'd be like, we entered and we saw this little baby, which was like a bundle of black. And the only thing that we could see about her were her eyes. Of course, there was a little white in that. Like, I swear to God, it was like really funny, but that was what was like, I heard that all my life, right? And I was so dark that um, when I grew up and I like went to school and stuff, I remember there was this little holiday that we had from school. I was in hostel and like our families were allowed to come and take us out. It was like Diwali break, so we were allowed to like dress up and like I watched all the girls of my age, with pink cheeks and naturally pink cheeks. And here I was like this black little thing who had no like there could not be any other color on my skin. It was really funny. So I actually, oh God, my stomach is hurting now telling you this because of what I did to myself. I took a towel. I think I was 12 or 13. I don't remember. I took a towel and I rubbed my cheek so hard with that towel to get a little pink that it did get pink. Actually, it got red. And I was really happy. But by the end of the night, when I like came back after the festivities, I had scarred myself. It was a bruise. I had two round bruises on my cheek that took over a month to get okay. Like I mean, after that, I was just like rubbing sofromycin and some other kind of meds around my cheek. But that was the level of judgments that I had about my body or the way I looked. And you're really right that I only discovered so much later with all the work that I had done that actually I don't have a freaking point of view. I actually began to realize that, and this is something that Adila told me. I had to attend three body whispering classes with her to finally hear it. Okay, to finally hear it. I remember the third one that I attended was again in Delhi, and um, she kept asking me this question that is everything you're making a problem actually a potency? And she needed to ask me that several times over three classes for me to finally get that everything that I was making a problem in my body was actually a potency that my body had to pull out of other people's other bodies. I actually had no point of view. And like because I watched so many people, and it is this body class. After this body class, I mean, we've had lots of conversations after this body whispering class. It was at this body whispering class when something really opened up for me as to the peace I am with bodies, which actually finally allowed me to sort of step into that whole being that potency. Like now, I like every time I ask questions and every time I'm processing myself, it. I get flashes of how I spent my entire childhood just wanting people to be happy with their bodies because I had a happy body. But because they couldn't receive it and because they didn't want to be happy, I made that like I started getting unhappy to understand their world and also to fit in because I was so like it was so weird to have a house full of people and there was no one in that house who didn't have a problem with their body. Like, it's insane, like how many, I know, I think it was a very interesting choice to be born in a household like that. Like, with my grandmom being bulimic, with like 3 out of 5 uncles, and we were a huge joint family, we lived together. Out of 5 uncles, 3 of them were alcoholics, with a bunch of other drug addicts around me. And then I had like 2 uncles who were constantly fighting their weight. They were constantly buying clothes which were 3 sizes smaller and stuffing it in their cupboard and saying someday will fit into it. Like, their entire life purpose was to fit into that 3 size down, right? And I watched them just becoming 3 sizes bigger and bigger and never wearing those clothes. And like, I was surrounded by, and like, I watched, like, downright to everything that occurred with my body. So my younger brother was literally beaten every day to eat. So I learned, like, I just learned everything to do with body was just so highly a problem that I think somewhere I kind of like gave up my happy body or being happy. But it was such a contradiction. And that is what I think killed me more than my own body shaming, was that people who would spend time with me would start enjoying their body a lot more. People who spend time with me would start loving themselves a lot more, to an extent that they would lose all their weight, to an extent that they would find like people who, like, I know that there are people, I have friends who've like not only lost weight but found the love of their lives just because they spend that much time with me, where I genuinely had no point of view about their body. I couldn't for the life of me see what they were judging. But see, I couldn't apply that to my life because I was not in my body. I was watching other bodies from outside my body. But that is what we do. And after the third body whispering class is when I began to like start asking, like, okay, what is my potency with body? And I started acknowledging it. But to be really honest, it was like in trickles, because I would watch my daughter snuggle up with me and suddenly feel better. Or I would watch my dog just come really close to me and wanting me to pet. And like, it would take all of 2 minutes and their whole energy would change. And I'd be like, okay, what am I being with them that I'm refusing to be for me or for my body? And like, of course, body whispering and then so many other body classes. And the body whispering class is very interesting for me because that was actually, I had done a lot of classes in access. And then I did the body whispering. And it was only after the body whispering that I started my journey of doing a lot of body classes. So I started the 3-day body class and then the advanced body class. And there was a lot of other things that I was willing to receive with my body, which then began to sort of change my relationship with it. And I will not lie, it still took, like, it's still taken me about, so 2015, now 2020, it still took me 5 years to finally, like, sort of get. I'm going to go like with 80% get. Because these days I've been like, every time I ask, like, okay, body, show me the gift of you, I am reminded of the times when, so right after my daughter, I was diagnosed with very high thyroid. And I remember walking out of the clinic going, that's, it's not even mine. And I hadn't done any access to say that it's mine. I hadn't done any, I mean, I'd done like Reiki and like pranic healing and like so many other modalities, but it wasn't like, I didn't know how to work with my body because all those modalities are also like mostly energy based, and like they also at some level, interestingly, look at the body as a problem. So like even when you're healing with Reiki, there is a possibility for bodies to contaminate other bodies, right? Like your body's energy can contaminate. So it's not looked at as like something that's fabulous, fantabulous, magical. It's looked at as a problem. And for most part, at least that's what I got. So my interesting point of view. Uh, and then it's like, I realized that I walked out of the clinic and I said, it's not mine. I had the medicine for one day and then I dumped it in the bin. And I was like, this is not my problem. I just so clearly, my body was so loud about not wanting to have those medicines. And then I was like, even with the bipolar, the same thing happened. Like my body was like, you can beat this. And the way I did it was through food and exercise, mostly. It was mostly through food and exercise. I knew that I was very lucky. I got a doctor who really thought that I could beat this. Like it wasn't an eternal problem. And he just told me that, look, it's a chemical imbalance. You need to beat it, having more of the things that will create more of the happy hormones in your body. So what are you going to do? So I started eating well. I started exercising well. I started running. And that is what, like within, of course, when I found access and all the other work that I do. And that is when it started like sort of reversing. And within about 8 months, I was given a clean shift
Wow.
of not
So
having that.
yeah, so you spoke about this potency with your body, right? Like your body's
Yeah.
ability to like literally be aware of and probably contribute to other bodies healing. And so for people who are listening for the first time, is there something that you'd like to say about that? And how is it that they could discover their potency or capacity? Is it a superpower that very few people have, or how does it work?
Well, I thought it was a superpower that very few people had. But the interesting thing about our body is like this little puppy, okay? It just wants you to be happy. And it's willing to create whatever you ask it to create. And it's not a superpower that only a few of us have. Um, it's interesting that I can include myself in the us while I talk to you now. It's taken me really long to get there. But it is not a superpower that only a few of us have. It is actually something that is innate for our bodies. Our bodies are natural healers. So if you I must mention here that after doing a lot of these body whispering classes, I actually got encouraged to kind of discover more of that potency by becoming a body facilitator myself.
Right body
So
feel.
I'm a right body for you facilitator, and I remember within the same year of having done my the third class where I was asked again and again, like, what have you made a problem that is actually a potency? I remember attending a right body for you class, and I knew like my body was like, this is what we want to do. And then very different journey with my body started from then on. And this thing about the potency of your body, if you watch, like, even when we were really little, when we would fall, we wouldn't make too much about it because we knew that we're going to be okay. It's an innate ability our body has. Like when we cut ourselves, for example, even if you don't do any dressing on it, eventually the cut will
Mm.
close. And like your body has a very wise conscious system, uh, and its only agenda is your well-being. Its only agenda is to make you happy. It's to keep you well, and it is not to comply to where you're surviving, but actually to show you can thrive. And your body desires to thrive. Your body actually likes being seen. Your body loves being touched. Your body loves interacting with other bodies. It is our point of views that keep us from like enjoying the senses, really allowing our senses to enjoy. But the fact is, if you have a body because you chose to have a sensual existence. You chose to see stuff that made you come alive, smell stuff that made you come alive, feel stuff that made you come alive, touch stuff that made you come alive. Like you literally came here to like, use your senses. But big, I think, of course, like with everything that I've shared, like I sort of missed that part completely, and the unlearning of that and um, learning to enjoy with my senses was part one. And I think if that is what people start doing, like literally, and like I said, the body is like a puppy, so it will give you everything you ask for. The minute I started to be shown my capacities and potencies and gifts, more of it started showing up. Like I told you about people who would like lose weight around me or just feel good by sitting next to me. Or if I remember like a friend, a very, very dear friend lost his father, and amidst all that crowd of like, we were at the cremation, and amidst all that crowd and like with everybody being around him, it was just not appropriate, and there was no time to sort of stay back. So I just kind of just hurriedly met and like give him a quick hug and left. And I remember what that 1 second of that interaction did to his body and my body was so palpable that before I could reach my car, he actually called me and he was like, I don't fucking care. There are 200 people here. Can you come back and give me a hug? And I went back and I just gave him a hug. And that hug probably lasted for 2 minutes. But I was so aware of the release from his body because I could feel it in every cell of my body. Like I felt him breathe and I could breathe. But then that was like the first time I realized, like, fuck, there is something that my body knows that I've never really acknowledged. And it's been there always, like not just with people. The interesting thing is it's there with animals and plants too. Like I've stood in front of a plant and just had like a small conversation and watched it within hours become something else. And
Wow.
we all have it. We all have it if we are willing to be present. The only thing is to be present with another body, another physical form. You've got to be present with your own body. You've got to be willing to step inside and own it and claim it and then work with it. Like it's taken me so long to finally go. And all of us, because we try to fit into everything that is considered right in this reality, we forget that innate wisdom that our body has, that the fact that our body has our back, that our body just wants us to thrive, and our body can give us anything we ask it for if we are asking for the right things. I mean, I don't mean right as in right and wrong, but when I was growing up, my role models were people who didn't like their body. And that is what I created. As I became a little more aware and I started work, I started looking out for those that really enjoyed their body. I started looking out for people who had joy in their body, people who were willing to, who had that healing capacity and were willing to be all of it. And I'm very fortunate that my body actually, when I asked for that, led me to all those places and classes and people. And now it's very easy for me to recognize it. One of the things that I learned when I was a child was I grew, whatever everyone around me was growing up, there was this one common theme, which was rejection. They rejected their body, and in turn, they rejected themselves. And in turn, they invited a lot of events in their life where they ended up feeling rejection. All my life, that has been a theme in my life because I, was like a kind soul, tried to pull all that shit. Like I wanted not them not to feel rejected, but I didn't know all of this, right? I can say that now because of the work that I've done, and I invited a lot of people who rejected themselves to reject me so that I knew that I fit in and so that they would feel better about being, feeling rejected themselves. It was so weird and so twisted. But then, like, I was like, okay, enough now. Like, there's got to be another way. You don't have to become something to heal it. And that was something that my body gave me the awareness of. Hey, you know that I know so much more and I have so many more capacities and potencies. And if you just start focusing on what do you truly desire, I will create that for you. And like literally just asking my body to show me, to lead the way. The difficulty is we're such controlling fucking freaks, right? We need to control everything. So we need to control everything in terms of we have to know what the right diet is. We need to know what to move correctly. We need to know who the right people are. Instead of trusting your body and going like, okay, this is about you. You lead the way. And it
Wow.
was this last body whispering class where I actually gave my body the permission to lead the way. And ever since it's been leading the way and it's been a very different journey. Yeah.
How amazing is that? I mean, you articulated it so beautifully. And that's the thing, right? Receiving from body whispering. You actually started uh, also listening to the,
Listening.
yeah.
One thing I do want to mention this though, for all of us who are listening to this call now or in the future, and like because it was something that kind of was, if you're a control freak like me, um, listening is very difficult. You don't want to listen to anything anyone says. It's not something that you would do. Listening means I have to obey, and that was one thing that didn't go down really well with me. Like I pretend, but I don't really. So I started changing it to, okay, buddy, I'm willing to hear you because is a choice. I'll hear you, but then I'll do whatever I want. So I just changed it to that, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to hear you. Like hearing someone out is okay, I'm willing to listen to what you have to say, but then I don't have to obey you because I don't have to listen to you. All my life, actually, so interesting. That's even when I talk to you, I say listen a lot because all my life I was asked to listen, right? Everybody spoke to me like that. Hey, listen. And I was like, you are not listening to you. Right. So it's like even when I like when there's so many body classes that I went to, they're like, listen to your body. And like in my head, it would be like, I'm not listening to anything. Like, it's but the minute I changed it to okay, I'm willing to hear you. Like, and the beauty of that shifting it to hearing was I was also willing to hear one thing that we are always connected to is the earth. And it's constantly gifting to our bodies. Like everything about the earth is actually a gift to your bodies. Everything. The earth is creating everything as a contribution and a gift so that your body can thrive, right?
So Yeah,
Yeah, if you're, I
good.
just wanted to complete that if you're disconnected from your body, it's very difficult for you to be connected to the earth. You can't.
Wow.
You can't, because your only way to connect with the earth is through the body. Gravity is that, right? It is the connection between you and the earth. But you need to have a body for gravity to be applicable to you. You need to have a physical form. Because as a being, you're just like flying in space all the time. Like, okay,
How cool is that? So when you started, when you changed that from listening to hear, and then when you started hearing what your body was asking for, were you able to see, like, were there any huge changes in your reality
sorry,
in
I
terms
just one
of?
second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We have to arrange school classes. Okay, cool.
were there
So
were there any when you started listening to what hearing what your body was actually communicating with you, were there like big changes in your lifestyle, in the way you lived, and like did you start doing things very differently right at the beginning, and did that come by surprise, or was it something that?
yeah, actually it did. So when I started, like when I gave my body the permission to hear, there were like I was asking for this change. I spoke about that whole thing about that fat and ugly that was like so ringing that eventually, like after a lot of years of working in myself, I was bold enough to sort of bring it out in a class that this is how I constantly feel, and then the awareness that that's not even mine. But then when I actually like when I started listening to the when I started hearing the whispers of my body, there was a moment where I actually tapped into the fact that my body doesn't want to punish me, and the fact that I created my body. There was a very clear, I created my body. I chose this body. I created it. Now, what was that for? And when I sort of tapped into that and I started acknowledging it more, and then I started going like, what's so right about my body? Like, what is so right? I started getting reminded of all the times when, like I told you about my thyroid story. I was diagnosed with thyroid. I threw it in the bin, and within like 6 months, I'd fallen really ill, and I had to get like all my blood tests done. There was no thyroidism, and there has been no thyroidism ever since. And this was like maybe 10 odd years back. I've not had a thyroid issue, and I didn't take the medicine for more than one day. There are so many things that my body created, which I mean, maybe I pulled out of people now that I know that it was a potency, which it also made me really aware that we have the potency to transmute this. It's not yours. And there's so many things that I changed. I remember looking at something and going like, oh, I'd really love that for that to be a reality for my body. And my body would just create it. And I began to realize that my body is so quick
Mm.
that we actually our bodies are so quick, but we tend to slow it down to fit into what this reality has projected. Like we've all heard, and I know you've heard, I know that you've had your own journey with your body, which is as magical. And I hope, I know you were going to say that you said this to someone else also, but I'm still taking the risk and I'm saying it. So whenever BWTV decides to hear your story, may I please interview you?
That'd be a honor. I
Okay,
would be
thanks.
really good.
Or else I'll have to just create my own channel where I interview you if they don't allow me to interview you. So it's like how many of us have heard like losing weight has to be difficult and long, or changing your body requires you to literally put your body through like a lot of pain or a lot of crap, or like not eat the things you like, not drink the things you like, and not move. And it may be partially true from your point of view, but if you really ask your body, hey body, what do you require, your body will completely show you the things that your body enjoys.
Yeah, and my question was exactly so, embracing what you do here, that came with ease. So there was no like resistance, so there was no like, was that easy for you?
Well, the difficult part was letting go of my story,
Mm.
right? It was also like actually receiving that I do have a potency and capacity, because I think acknowledgement is the toughest thing for a humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
It is very difficult. And also we get so attached to our stories, right? Like we get so attached to that is who made me. Like because I watch people being body shamed all my life, and I attracted friends. Interestingly, I had like the friends that I have had all my life are people who've never had issues with their body, and they are beautiful. They are considered beautiful in this reality, and yet They're very different from me, and yet they have the same problem. They could never, they body shame themselves too. So for me, that was like a big knowing that, oh, even if they have the right size as per this reality, and they have the right looks, and they are everything that this reality considers beautiful, like from their hair to their face to their complexion to their eyes to their size, they are still body shaming themselves. They still find reasons to not embrace their body. There's always something wrong that they still need to fix. And I was like, oh, and that was like, I was like, speak. It is so sad. It is really sad that the prettiest people that I know also look at themselves and consider themselves ugly. And so when I was doing this when I was working on myself and I started asking for a reality beyond that, where I didn't like wherever I created it or whatever I did to have it, I was asking to change it, and I started asking to be shown bodies that were joyful, even in moments. And I would ask to duplicate that consciousness, even if it was in moments. So I shared a video on Facebook of this girl doing hula hoop, and she had so much joy in her body that I was like, that I'll have that, and I want it with ease. And it doesn't mean that I have to be that size or do hula hoop. I think it was just about asking for the energy of it, right? And then my body started showing me the activities that actually do that for me, and part of it is just being able to run. And I never considered myself a runner. In fact, I have got coaching for running, and I remember that it was so hard for me to do 2 kilometers or like just run continuously for 2 kilometers, and that would generally take about 15 to 20 minutes. It was so difficult not to be able to do that. But there are days when I've asked my body, do you want to run? And when my body says yes, I'm like, can you make it fun? I've been able to go for an hour and not being tired. So do we include our body when everything is about our body? Like, do you ask your body, hey, would you like to eat this? Because there are so many times when I've gone logically because I've been on a diet and I've been like, this is what I need to eat. But I have also done that. And in fact, recently, and I have eaten that. And yes, it's given me the result. But I promise you, everyone who met me told me that I'm looking sad because I was sad. I was very sad eating that food. I was really sad. So the deal was, do I want to be a size 10 being sad, or do I want to be a size 10 being happy? Then I had to start making different choices. Then I was like, I don't want to be sad. There's no point bringing your size down and wear all the clothes that you want to, but you're gonna still look sad, right? So it was like, and then I had to ask a different set of questions. I had to ask like, okay, like what will make you happy? So instead of like killing myself over that, my body started actually showing me, hey, you know what? I like this part about the diet, but then I'd like you to add this. Or I don't want you to eat all of this. I just want you to eat this out of that. Okay, so I just started doing that, and I actually started getting happier.
Wow.
And it wasn't, and to be honest, if my dietitian knew what I was doing, she would freak. I haven't even told her that I've broken up with her. So she'll only know when she watches this video. I'm totally cheating on her. Yet, like, the question was, do I like want to? I also went down that path where I was, so all my life when I wanted to change my body, I have gone through 1,000 diets and 1,000 exercise programs and 1,000 slimming programs, mind you, which were oh, I'm going to stop at that. I don't want to indulge anymore in more, reasons to judge me. But okay, but like I have done all of those things where I would leave it halfway because my body was not agreeable to it. But instead of knowing that it is because my body wasn't choosing that, I made it about being inconsistent. Because I did that with a lot of things in my life. Like I chose a lot of things which I left halfway when it stopped being fun for me. But I didn't know that I was doing it because it stopped being fun for me. I thought it was because I was inconsistent. I couldn't see anything to the end, and I will not amount to anything. That's something that I've heard all my life. Like you'll end up like doing nothing in life because you leave everything.
Mm.
So even while I was asking these questions, there was that noise at the back of my head. Like, had I not done the recent body whispering classes, there was that noise. It would be very easy to indulge that noise instead of going like, well, what do I know? And what does my body know? And okay, body, take over. Like you take over. You know? And it was a difficult thing to look at the parts of you that you didn't like, that all your life you've kind of judged, and then look at it and go like, okay, if everything I've decided about you was not true, can you show me like what you would like to show up? And that was, it was interesting. Like my body actually doesn't have a point of view. Like it really doesn't have a point of view. So I started asking for a very different thing. Instead of asking to be the right size or to be the right weight, I started asking to be joyful. I
Mm.
started asking to be happy. I started asking, okay, I'm going to indulge in everything that makes you happy, whether it is watching something on TV or going for a walk or running or eating, whatever it is that you're asking to eat. So yeah, and of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. I just looked at the time and I mean, it was such a beautiful conversation. We are at the 45-minute mark already.
Oh,
I want to
shit.
ask you, I mean, there are so very many, I mean, probably we'll have to do another episode, Sangeeta. And if you would, so you are a facilitator, you've been working with people for very many years now, right? And you do a lot of body work. So you're an SOP practitioner, you're a maestro, you've done like a lot of bodily work that you do. So how has body whispering contributed to that?
So for me, the biggest contribution of body whispering to all my work is like I love the fact that you can add it to everything you're already doing,
Yeah.
because it has no point of view. It's not a defined, like it's not a defined modality. It is exactly that, body whispering, which means you hear what the bodies require and you're willing to give exactly that to the body, whether it's in terms of a touch or it's in terms of a process or it's in terms of like an energy, like whatever modality you have done, you can add body whispering to it. So it just kind of, I think it amps it up because now it's really about the body and not about the right modality that you're using, which was like a great freedom. One. Second, it allowed me to use everything I already know. So, like, normally all body work has like a set process. Like, you know that there are these points you have to touch, or there is this one particular way of moving, or this one particular way of placing your hands. With body whispering, it's like, what do you know? So, it actually asked, like, it got me to include my body in the process of contributing to another body. It was like my body was communicating with the other body, and then I was just following the energy and the whisper. So that has been my greatest takeaway. Plus, body whispering can be done from a distance. So now we've cut through time, space, dimension, and you can be anywhere and you can do a body process session. And it doesn't only have to work on bodies, which was also another gift because you can do body whispering on anything. You can do body whispering on a relationship. You can do body whispering on a situation or on an animal, right? So it doesn't only
The
have to
most
work
interesting one I heard recently was someone using body whispering processes and tools
on insects.
on food,
Oh
on
yeah, on food.
while
Yeah,
cooking, while cooking, like what, like the vegetables that weren't fresh enough. Like I know someone who used to use, like body whispering tools to get a like
make
make a
it.
tasty meal. How cool
But
is
I,
that?
yeah, I know, right? And like, I think that we are in. It's an innate part of us.
Yeah.
It's not something that we are not, which is what I love about body whispering. It's about reminding you or recalling the the capacity you have and are. Your body already knows how to do this. If you can talk to a plant and ask it to come alive and it does, then what keeps you from doing it with things and with food and with other stuff, right? Like it's just about that. It's the communion you really are. Only catches you can't be in communion if you're judging. So the work is to get rid of the judgment. And what I love about body whispering is there are times when I don't know how to get rid of the judgment because I'm when something is really significant in my life, I tend to go into how did I create it? Like, what must I do to sort of like release it now? Or like, why did I create it? I go into that. And that's my head. But the minute I do like body whispering and I get into my body and I'm like, hey, I don't know how. Can you show me how? Like, can you show me? Because this is related to you. So can you show me how can I get rid of this? My body does, and it shows me, and it like reminds me the space I am. It reminds me of like a gift that I've been. It reminds me of something that I've done. And then all I have to do is like, okay, I'll be more of it. Okay, I'll have more of that. Okay. I'll choose that. And the minute I do that, it's like it's a whole different ball game. And can I? I'm asking for it every day. So it's like I wake up and I do a session for myself. It's like I literally do those steps that the body because it's so cool. It's like just about connecting to your body, connecting to the earth, and all of it contributes. All of it.
Wow. I mean, I actually do feel like, once you have one of those really wholesome, full meals and you feel satiated and you feel like happy, like that's what this conversation's done to me. So thank you very much. Like it's been a beautiful conversation. But before we let you go, we have like a little fun segment where we're going to ask you a few questions. The one that you're
I don't get to skip
excited
this, do I?
about.
I don't get to skip this, do I? Like just for being your friend, I don't
No.
get to skip this.
Absolutely not. So there are. I wanted to add a few more, but then I just chose to be kind to you. Okay, cool. So let's. Okay, so if you weren't in Delhi right now, where would you be and what would you be doing?
Oh, I'd probably be in the mountains and I'd probably be jumping either out of a plane or paragliding or doing something like crazy like that.
How cool is that? Okay, so can you share one incident as a facilitator that was oddly satisfying, like when you heard of it or when you saw it?
That's a weird question. I've had lots of oddly satisfying and my head is going in very different places now. But since you said as a facilitator, now it doesn't have to be a client, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a client, right?
Paid client.
Uh, oh God, there are so many. Uh, wow. You know what? I think for me, the one that I shared before about, but I wasn't a facilitator then, so I don't know if it counts. But the fact that there have been sessions where I've literally done nothing but held the person close to me, and it's changed their world. And I
Mhm.
think that for me is the most satisfying part, where I don't have to use my head to figure out what the problem is, what they require. It's like I just ask my body to be the energy they require. And it's either if I'm holding their hand or I'm literally hugging them and it changes. I remember my daughter, actually, let me tell you this. My daughter was in the hospital and she was actually in the ICU because she got pneumonia. She's very little. And I only got to her like after a lot of hours because I needed to go pack my son and whatever, arrange and then. So by the time I got to her, like most of everything had been done, and she was already on like her oxygen mask and everything was already on. And the minute I sat next to her, I watched her body breathe in a way that was like, you're here. Like I just that. And then she took my hand. She couldn't talk because she had the mask on. She took my hand and she placed it on her stomach, one on her chest and one on her stomach. And she said, stay like this. And I slept like that the whole night. And even then, like to be honest, it was my daughter, and like I love her, but even then I had no point of view of what her body was choosing, which is crazy now that I think of it. I wasn't emotionally, I was just being whatever was required. And I placed my hand there and I stayed there. And the next morning, the doctors came for a round and they saw her. She was eating, she was perked, she's up. They saw her report, they looked at her, they saw her report, they looked at her, they saw her report, they looked at her, and they were like, this report does not belong to this child. They couldn't believe that 24 hours earlier, that report belonged to this kid who was admitted in an emergency because there were all those things that should have been as per the report were not there. And I'm going to gloat a little bit. My daughter also has like huge healing capacities. We had a child next to us around the same age as her who was admitted for like her basically her food, instead of going down, was going up. So there was a reverse, like she couldn't excrete because everything was going upwards. And so she was actually admitted for an operation. And we were supposed to be discharged a day earlier. And Divyani, I remember telling me, Mama, we're not going tomorrow, we'll go day after. And I just said, okay. And that night, Divyani developed a fever. And which was strange because everything was clear, infection was clear. She shouldn't have had the fever. Uh, she had the fever, but she was absolutely fine, just talking, yakking, blah, 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 blah. The next morning, of course, we couldn't get discharged because she had fever. So the doctor said 24 hours, I'm going to watch. After 48 hours, both of them got discharged together because that girl's intestine just untwisted and she didn't need the surgery.
How cool is that? Shh, don't tell anyone.
Of course, we've already announced it.
Never, never, never.
So how does it get any better than this?
Awesome. Thank you so
And I
much.
know that she gave me this little knowing look, like I knew that we're going to get discharged together, right? So yeah.
Wow. Awesome. I'm almost thinking whether I should let you go of the next three questions, but I will not. Okay. So what's that one book or one movie that you hated, given that you're such a big bookworm, that everyone else loved, and vice versa?
Oh God. I can't remember any top of the head,
No
but
movie.
usually when
You can
someone
tell us
loves
about a
everything,
movie that you hated that everyone else loved.
oh, hum saath saath hai. And if you've not watched it, don't. But if any one of you have watched it, how? How can you like that movie? God, it makes me breathless completely. I need to get my bars run a lot of times to that movie.
and one and one movie that you loved that everyone else hated, or one book.
Oh, a lot of actually. There are a lot of movies that I loved that mostly everybody hated. Like I remember when Dil Se came, there were people that I went to watch with were like, "What a hell, what a crappy thing! 3 years, 3 hours we wasted." And I loved everything about that movie. But there are a lot of these offbeat movies that I end up loving that nobody does. But what occurs is eventually everybody gets it and everybody catches up. So the last one was. Uh, that remake of the the guy who made Tamasha when he made the next one with that Amrita's daughter, Saif's daughter. What's the name?
Love Aajkal.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
because I've seen the original one and then this, and like when we walked out, like everyone around us was complaining, blah, 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 blah. But I loved it. I loved everything about that movie. And then eventually the reviews started getting better and better. But it was trashed, like completely. Everybody trashed it, but I loved it. So yeah, I guess it just won't fit in.
So cool. Okay. So this is okay. So if you could teach a college course, okay, what would your choice be and why?
What are the choices? You're supposed to ask. Are you supposed
What
to tell?
subject would you teach?
Well, I'm very big on love, so I guess I will be talking about love, but nothing is good.
Biochemistry.
Uh, would you like to be my student?
Enrolled long back, my friend. Okay. And you may want to kill me for doing this, but your last project or the last thing you do before we leave is, would you like to share like a little skill? Like we know that you have a brilliant voice and you sing. Okay, so is there a little line that you'd like to hum for us? Song of your choice.
What I hate you for doing this. So I've always been a bathroom singer, but I don't do this publicly.
Bedrooms are the new bathrooms. Okay, no, cool. That was bad. That was a bad one. Okay.
Is it time to sort of like break boundaries and all? But what if I make everyone who listens to this video like want to kill themselves after this? Just as well, right? Good riddance to bad rubbish.
Contribute. Exactly.
Sorry, I take that back. Okay.
We're live on Facebook. We can't even cut it out.
No. Okay. I'm like so there is this there are actually a couple of songs that I've always so there's this song called I'm not even going to attempt it, not in this go because God, I really want to hold my ears because there's a song, and I know everybody knows it, is that Aaj Jaane Ki Zidna Karo has been like a eternal song that I've always, like, even as a little kid, I would dream of singing it. Like, I would actually wake up dreaming that I'm singing it in, like, a public forum. And so many times, it's like one of the fantasies that I go to, like, actually being able to sing that until the iDiva videos started getting floating about those South Delhi aunties who only wanted to sing Aaj Jaane Ki Zidna Karo. So I'm going to sing another song instead of that. Okay. I don't even know what to say beyond before that. So, okay. बढ़ जाओ गले के फिर ये हंसी रात हो न हो शायद फिर इस जन्म में मुलाकात हो न हो लग जा गले. That's it.
Woo! Thank you so much. Wow, you're such a sport. You cannot call me and kill me after this, but that was such a beautiful thing that you just did, and I'm so glad you were able to do it live on Facebook. Thank you so much. Thanks. It's been such a wonderful conversation. I mean, I wonder how many people can receive from this. I mean, there's so many such beautiful nuggets, and yeah, it's like I'm waiting forward to have you again one more time talking about something else, probably somewhere else. And thank you so much.
Sure. No, thank you. And like to everyone who's watching, I know this is like a body whispering TV and stuff, but one of the greatest gifts I think of this life, if you've like actually like chosen this life, is to enjoy the body that you come in and don't wait for 40, 50 years to do it. Wherever you are at right now, just start. And like that would be my invitation. Even if you don't do anything else in life, if you just learn to be with your body and enjoy it, it's a treasure house of wisdom and consciousness. And all it wants is to have fun. And if you just trust it. So, yeah.
Wow. Pew. Mic drop. Thank you all, everyone. We will see you soon with another guest. By the end of this month, we are planning something else. And yeah, thank you so much. And see you soon.
Thank you,
Bye
Datu.
bye.
See
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.